Former Vice President Mike Pence is joining other potential 2024 presidential candidates in Florida. Pence is addressing a social conservative group hoping to build momentum for next year's congressional midterm elections. Texas GOP Senator Ted Cruz is speaking there today. Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is there tomorrow. They are among the party's top options to run for president in 2024 if former President Trump stays out of the race. When Pence took the stage this afternoon, he was met with some jeers. Reporters in the room say attendees were calling him a traitor. Hear it for yourself.
And I want to thank my friend Ralph Reed for those overly generous words. I'm deeply humbled by them. And Ralph Reed knows me well enough to know the introduction I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order, and I am honored to stand before you today.
Politico Florida Bureau Chief Matt Dixon joins me now. Hi, Matt. That was interesting. So this is one in a series of public speeches Pence has been giving since leaving office. Is it clear yet what his plans are for 2024?
I don't think it's clear by any means, but without question, he's flirting with a run to return to the White House this time as president. He's shown up in some early polling, and actually some that have been done by Florida pollsters, kind of looking at the 2024 landscape nationally, have had him 1 or 2 with Governor DeSantis here. So I think without question, and his speech sort of framed that today, talking about administration priorities that he had done when in the White House with President Trump, and also sort of hammering the Biden administration on several things. So I think he's been polling. He's using his speeches to frame a potential future run. I think it's a little murky and unclear at this point, but there's a lot of people jockeying, and former Vice President Pence is certainly one of them.
So overall, what do Florida Republicans think of Pence? You know, as we heard those cries of traitor this afternoon, I mean, Florida is sort of shaping up as being the home right now of the forward-looking Republican Party. So, you know, how important is it that Florida Republicans embrace him?
Well, it's always really important. It's one of the key things, I guess, to remember is President Trump lost, but he won Florida by 3 points, which is huge. It's a landslide here. The Republican Party of Florida right now is Donald Trump's party. So how they react to you is important nationally as well, because the Trump voice, the MAGA verse, is still a hugely influential part of Republican politics. So those jeers, I certainly don't know if those were people from Florida. This is a national organization holding its annual conference. So it's tough to tell if those are Florida Republicans jeering him, but it's certainly not a great indication for Pence. If some folks recall that the January 6th insurrection on the White House, there were folks that were coming to do physical harm to the former vice president. So there's certainly a strain among those who think the 2020 election was rigged or stolen or what have you, that Vice President Pence is kind of on an enemy's list. And I think you saw some of that today. I think it's important to quickly note that he hit his talking points, and then the crowd sort of did cheer again. So they seem to drown it out fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. But there's certainly that strain that doesn't like the former vice president, and we saw that today.
And former President Trump is also set to speak in Florida 2 weeks from tomorrow. Over the weekend, he told Fox Business he's considering Florida Governor Ron DeSantis as his potential 2024 running mate. What more do we know about former President Trump's plans for 2024, and how does DeSantis fit into the future of the GOP?
Well, I think a lot of people here, at least, are seeing that as a bit of a power play on Trump's part. Governor DeSantis has been ascendant in 2024 national polling. He's become a bit of a rock star on the Republican side. And I think Trump is sort of reading the room and getting a sense that, hey, this guy is ascending very quickly. And so the idea of throwing it out there for him to be the vice president might, be to distract from some of that. But as I had mentioned previously, Trump's impact nationally and especially in Florida is very, very large. But there is an ascendant Ron DeSantis without question, and he has to navigate sort of the complicated political calculus that all of the other 2024 Republican aspirants do. How do you message? How do you meet the right people, the right donors to build a potential presidential campaign without angering the former president? Because as we all know, it used to be you're one tweet away from him, ending your political career, and now I guess it's one statement, but regardless, you don't want the former president coming after you if you want to run for the White House as a Republican.
And yet, how much do the presidential ambitions of Mike Pence, Ron DeSantis, or really any other Republican for that matter, hinge on former President Trump's plans? Does it all depend on him?
Yeah, I think almost universally, if President Trump were to follow through on his implied intent to run again in 2024, I would have to believe that it clears the field in a material way. I'm sure there would be other Republicans in, but it wouldn't be much of a primary. If he does not, he plays the role of kingmaker, which I think is probably something that appeals to him as well. Whoever Donald Trump would put his support behind, if he chose to support a candidate in the primary, would get a huge boost. That support helped Governor Ron DeSantis become the governor of Florida. Trump supported him in a primary, and I think there would be that same sort of amplification, for support if he, chose to endorse in a 2024 Republican primary.
Politico Florida Bureau Chief Matt Dixon, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you.